All right.
reception.
They're starting to come through now. Look at that.
So as we
yeah,
were saying, walruses eat soft invertebrates. Was that the? Sorry, that was the topic.
yeah, that's the yeah. We're gonna. This is actually it's a stealth webinar. It's actually all about walruses. That's what's that's all we're talking about for 60 minutes. So I hope you read the Wikipedia pages appropriately.
Absolutely.
There'll be an audience quiz as well, of course.
I just happen to have a sea cucumber under the desk, so I'll just grab one of those.
yeah. Yeah, I did see the like 30 minutes out. There was a reminder email that at least hit me saying we're kicking off now. And so I'm not sure if that was me starting the practice session or if that was expecting people to sort of join that early. But yeah, we sort of got talking about non-moral stuff. So anyway, here we are. So we've got some people that are coming in 5 minutes early, which is good. But yeah, we probably should try and keep the banter going and keep it nice and light. But we've got some.
So I have to ask then, Grant, if we're going slightly OT at the moment, how do I get? I've never figured out how to actually get the Walrus to appear as a client when using the tool. I'm assuming there's a wonderful secret that I need to know. Are we going to learn that today?
Not today. I know there is a hotkey related to it, but yeah, I think you've got to go through like a 4-day certification training. That's how tricky it is to really know to know where it is. Yeah, I think at one point there was a blog post on it that was sort of talking about it. Maybe it was just like a tweet from UC, but yeah, I think it's sort of. I think it's one of those things where, like, if you're one of the original Hamina guys, users, then you probably know what it is. But yeah. Anyway, not to worry. But I have seen, to your point, Haydn, there is a lot of WLPC videos sort of popping up. It looked quite good. There was I saw. Roel and Francois did like their top 10, like I think things they learned at WLPC or something along those lines, their podcast. And they were sort of saying that there was some good, smaller talks that people were able to do. It looked like with a smaller audience, and it was sort of still recorded and it was put up on their YouTube page, which was really good. Because there was a couple of talks on there that I know I voted for that looked like they didn't get on the main stage, but it looks like they managed to get on some of the breakout rooms, which is good. So I guess if you're starting out and you don't want to sit in front of the world's smartest wireless engineers, and not that anyone's mean and no one's gonna, everyone's gonna sort of let you have your stage time, but it can be a little bit, I guess, intimidating as well. So.
Well, yeah, not to take too off topic, but for those that are sitting there at the moment in the list, if you haven't checked it out, there is a WLPC YouTube channel that you should absolutely be taking a look at if you're a wireless engineer. It's amazing free content.
Yeah, should bring it up.
Definitely concur with that. I've been slowly watching them between my 5,000 meetings that I've got. Where's the playlist? I've got the link here, Grant.
Yeah, cool. I'll just pop it in the chat. I'll send it to everyone. I mean, if you just look up WLPC, there's a heap of stuff there. Even the Wireless LAN Professionals, the website is actually really good. There's a lot of good downloadable, like SSID overhead calculations and stuff like that, which is sometimes handy to have nearby and stuff like that. So yeah, good to see people coming in.
And that also being said, those WLPC videos, not all of them are. They're generally not Flogger vendors product. It's generally wireless and what you can do. It might lean on some of their vendors, particularly when it's some of the architects and that for those companies working. But generally, I'm pretty sure Keith doesn't allow them to basically do a marketing ploy. It's got to be about using stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the main attraction point to it. Is you can be a vendor on there, but it's got to be sort of a bit more, something to be a sales pitch, which is good. Right. We are at the top of the hour. It's great to see everyone joining in. I'll just mention quickly, because we're on Zoom, we've got the chat there. Everyone's been pretty quiet at the moment. It's always good to see where people are dialing in from. I love sort of seeing that. So if you haven't already, I do recognize a couple of names there, but it'd be great to sort of see where people are dialing in from. I'm based out of Gold Coast, Australia, but I do see a couple of ones in there that look like Australia, and I notice a couple of others from Southeast Asia, which is awesome. So we've got the chat there. We will kick off formally in a couple more minutes. We'll just give some stragglers time to get in. But we've also got the Q&A as well. So if you've got any questions throughout, I know Michael wanted to know how to activate the Walrus in the planner. I don't know if we're going to cover that. That's a part of the technical deep dives, but we can save that for another time. And the biggest challenge is, at least when I was sort of putting this together, was like, what sort of what sort of vertical do we design for? And I landed on a hotel. I think I'll do a hotel, which will be sort of a multi-story sort of thing. The last thing we want is to see me drawing walls and stuff like that in. So we'll skim through some of that, hopefully, and not make it too boring for anyone. I'm sure a couple of people that are on this session have probably seen some of this in action before as well.
Hey, Grant, just as an FYI, there seems to be a few Q&As about the chat feature being disabled. Is that meant to be disabled, or?
No, it shouldn't be. Let me see if I've got the ability to fix that. Just chat amongst yourselves. We'll have a look at this.
Haydn, I noticed the glasses have gone.
Oh, yeah, I'll put them back on.
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah. What else have I got? Get some Christmas lights.
Oh, that's better. Nice and festive.
We can go back to COVID days. No one wants to do that, though. I love these little features. There's no pirate one. I had one where I attended a meeting on International Talk Like a Pirate Day with the overlay of the pirate. Talking like a pirate makes the meetings much more fun. I think the answer to the chat disabled is Grant can't work out how to turn chat on.
Well, it looks like I have to log in to the actual portal, and it's not necessarily my it's not my account. It was organised through marketing, so not to throw anyone under the bus. But hey, you know what? If that's the biggest technical problem we have today, then then that's not too bad. Yeah, it doesn't look like
I wonder whether
ability.
I wonder if that WN professionals link that you put out actually got viewed by anyone.
It does say to everyone, but yeah, but
because on my side it just says host and panelists. That's it. I can't see everyone in chat.
Okay. Oh, look, I can type to everyone, so I've got
yeah.
God mode, which is great. But that
That's
looks
right.
to
They
be
got,
it. Yeah.
looks like everyone's using the Q&A as the chat function at the moment.
All right,
anyway,
we're going to have a lot of questions and answers about
that's all
where
good.
people are dialing in from. So look, let's kick off because yeah, we're a couple of minutes in now, and I'm sure we'll figure things out. All right, so let's just get a desktop share going. We'll jump into here. Now we did promise 0 slides on this webinar, and we're gonna keep to that. And we're literally just going to use we'll use the web pages, and then we're going to get straight into the product. So just for today's webinar, this is the first Hamina Wireless APAC webinar. I thought it would be good to do an introduction to the Hamina Wireless tools, mostly because you know, people that have heard of us or maybe not have heard of us, they probably want to at least see it, and maybe you know, maybe see what it's capable of, maybe see what the feature set looks like. And I thought it was probably a good opportune time to do that. We can use the Q&A if there's anything specific you're looking to see. And so my name is Grant. I am from Hamina Wireless. I cover the Asia Pacific region. I've got some sort of fancy title, but basically anything Asia Pacific, you can talk to me. There's my email address there, grant@hamina.com. It's a big vote of confidence when it's just first name and then you know, domain. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then basically today, you know, we've got a bit of an overview of what we're looking to do. I'm quite happy for the Q&A to help steer that as well. So we will do some of the network planner side. We do have the Ossium Nomad here as well. So I'll give everyone a bit of a look at what that looks like. And then I've also got a couple of friends here to sort of help me out, who have used the tool, who are users of the tool as well. So I might let them do a bit of an introduction. Why don't we jump over to the guy in the middle here, Haydn. Now with sunglasses.
Yeah, now with sunglasses. Rocking the Zoom sunglasses. I'm a wireless engineer. Been in the industry for too many years now. CWNE 256. And like Grant said, I've been playing with Hamina since pretty much it got announced from UC. Feels like yesterday, but it's probably a bit longer than that. And putting it through its paces of what can it do, and is it going to be the tool for the organisation I'm working at the moment, which is a large retailer.
Awesome. All right. And then we've got Michael. So Michael, without the sunglasses, a little bit more subtle though.
I can get sunglasses if it's a requirement, but otherwise I'll just kick on with these regular ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, my name's Michael. I'm run a small managed services provider out of Perth, WA. I'm probably a more recent entrant into the wireless game. I've really only sort of focused in on it for the last 5 or so years, but it's been a real focus for our business. So we don't have any CWNEs on staff yet, but we're working our way up through that list. And we have been using Hamina for quite some time now. Love it. Very simple, speedy, fast, does exactly what we want. So we're looking forward to seeing what Grant's going to show us today.
All right, cool. Okay, let's get into the good stuff. So we'll do just a quick little overview. If anyone is sort of, you know, curious to, I guess, learn a little bit more, literally everything's on the Hamina website. So hamina.com, you can jump in there. You know, there's little clips and videos and things like that that sort of show you, you know, what the different products do, what you get them with. You know, there's a little, you know, you can go through and do a quoting tool and all that kind of stuff if you want, to look at, you know, prices and all that kind of stuff. And we've got 2 products here, and then there's sort of a sub product in the planner, which we'll start with. And so basically Hamina Network Planner, as it sort of states on the package name, basically for all your network planning requirements, fundamentally. So it is a browser-based tool. So I've got a whole bunch of tabs up here, so we'll jump into the planner in a minute. But basically, you've got a like a sort of a standard version, and then you've got a Planner Plus version. And so if we sort of scroll down to here, we'll show you what that looks like in a little bit. But one of the big things with the Planner, it's not like a traditional tool where you've got a DMG or an executable. It does run in a browser. It runs incredibly well. I think a lot of people are sort of surprised at how well it runs. And so it is purely cloud based. And even though I'm in Australia, I haven't really noticed any sort of latency issues or anything like that. So I don't imagine anyone else that's on this session is going to notice anything either. If you're not 100% sure, you can actually sign up for a planner, just sort of like a standard light license is what it's called. And that'll basically give you the option to use a predetermined number of walls and a certain number of access points. I think it was 4 is what you were saying before, Haydn. But it gives you enough to sort of get a bit of a play with it, to understand what the technology does. You can do all these kind of cool things like move the AP around and see the propagation, the heat map change dynamically as well. You can do all that sort of stuff. And so, being that it runs on a browser, we've got customers that, yes, they run it on their Linux box. Yes, it'll run on Windows. Yes, it'll run on Mac. It's pretty flexible in that regard as well. It does have some pretty cool and nifty features, which I'll get into, and I'll show some sort of real-time demos. But the 3D view is probably a pretty cool one, and I'll show some examples of why I think that's a bit of a game changer for for the design side of things as well. And then it's also got things like reporting and stuff like that, which I know not everyone loves reporting, but it is something that if you are managed services, or if you're project delivery, it's something that you're going to need to be able to do. And we've got the ability to export like into a PDF, or you've also got the ability to sort of export like an interactive version of the project that's been created. And we'll spend some time in that in a little bit as well. The Plus version has basically got probably the big thing that it's got is the private cellular planning in there. So that's sort of a big one if that's something that you're sort of into. So you'll not only get the Wi-Fi planning, but you'll also get the private cellular 4G and 5G. You do also get sloped and raised floors, which you can see from the animation there is really for like the stadium design and things like that, which is really cool. I'll show a couple of examples of what that sort of looks like when it's sort of implemented as well. And then you've got things like uplink, downlink, and worst link, which is for the client view. I'll show that in a little bit too. And then we're also soon to be released. We'll have the ability to import surveys from our friends at NetAlly from their Link Live service. And so, the nice thing there is that, yes, Hamina have got design tools. Yes, we've got an on-site survey tool, and the Nomad is sort of that's like the hardware unit that we're sort of mostly promoting. But you can also use your internal MacBook adapter for surveys. You can use a WLAN Pi to do surveys. And then we will eventually have the ability to bring in surveys like from a NetAlly hardware device. So the nice thing there is you've got a bit of choice, depending on the, on the survey you're looking to do. Haydn, I'm sure you've been in plenty of examples where you've been like maybe in a pinch, haven't had the right survey device, and maybe needed, I just want to do a quick scan with my MacBook, or I've got a G3 and I want to be able to do a quick scan on that. Being able to bring that into the tool would be pretty nice, right?
Yeah, definitely. I've had times where I've been out on site where I wasn't really expecting to need to do a survey, so I didn't have the survey tool, and to be able to use the internal adapter and still get some sort of heat map or some sort of data would be much better than, yes, I can use Adrian Granado's tools like Wi-Fi Explorer and that, but I still don't get the ability to get some sort of heat map if I do have to, in a pinch, give internal or external people a bit of a view of what's going on. And quite often, like with you said with NetAlly, quite often I've got the G2 or G3 for potentially more the spot checks where I was just going out to check something, but the ability to feed that data in is going to be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So the other thing I'll just mention, we do have certification training as well. I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but hamina.com/training. Yeah, we've got a couple of different training tracks there as well. And then let's jump into the tool. So the first thing you'll notice, I've got all my different projects here. I'm going to start and just create a new project from scratch. And, you know, I think we were talking before about, you know, like what are we, you know, what are we sort of going to start with? I've just sort of landed on a hotel environment. And so you'll see here, we've got the environment here. And basically, if you determine, you know, depending on the environment, you can basically start placing APs based on the environment, and the software will do a pretty good job of giving you the right propagation without having to actually add any walls or anything like that. But of course, if you do want to, if you do start to add walls and things like that in there, then basically the software will revert to like free space path loss instead. So just need to drag and drop a floor plan in. Now I'm just going to drag and drop a PDF into this one here, and it'll take a minute. You can see it's sort of it's in the middle of an upload here, and it's having a think about it. So it shouldn't take too long. I should note this is a multi-story PDF as well. So first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to add a scale, and so I can just zoom in here. So I can scroll in with my mouse, click, and then we've got a 39 meter thing, right? So pretty straightforward. Now I can go in and just, you know, do the manual wall drawing. I've got a whole bunch of walls here. I can add or modify walls if I want as well. But because it's a PDF, I can actually select the layering. And so, you know, I'm sure a lot of people have maybe seen something like this before. And so I can scroll through on the right-hand side here, and I can see all the different bits and pieces. Or I can just sort of zoom in and I can, you know, click on some of this stuff here. And so, you know, I've got furniture, and I might just assign the furniture as the cubicle layer, for example. So there's not really a you know, a sort of a right or a wrong way to do it. We can go through here and apply some of these, and you can sort of see as I define the different wall materials, they're highlighted in purple, and then the ones that I'm actually going to change are highlighted in blue. So we'll go through here, and we've got just drywall, and there's only a couple more we need to do here. So we'll do some windows. Don't need to do any parking lots. Window. We've got like things like furniture and sinks and stuff like that. So fixtures. So we've got the windows here. We can apply that as an actual window. All right, actually, we might want to make that a tinted window. Now, the reason that it matters whether I just set it as glass or as a window is that it will actually display as a window with like a, you know, a brick or a concrete facade top and bottom as well, as opposed to if I just do glass, it'll be a top to bottom, like a, you know, a 2.4 meter high pane of glass. And it may not be obvious in the 2D view, but when we switch into 3D, you'll actually be able to see the window with the other building materials around it, which is quite nice. And then we've got another entry for the door here, which again, you know, we can just apply as a wooden door. Now that looks pretty good to me. I think we've got this other one here. We've got the glazed glass. So this one here, what I'm going to do is, you know, I'm going to modify the glass itself. So what I'm going to do is we go in here, we select glass, we duplicate that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call this glazed. And I'm going to double the attenuation. and then I might give it like a green color. And you can sort of see here, transparent in 3D. Yes, I want that because it'll show up in the 3D view, show on the list, dynamic attenuation per frequency. I can do that, save, and then I've got glazed glass there as well, which I'll apply. And then I just hit import, and it's going to import those 6 different wall materials. Does that pretty quick. All right, we go back to here, and we've got our design. And so, it looks okay. We've got a little bit of color there, but once we go into actual 3D mode, you can sort of see it looks a lot more sort of impressive when we sort of see that there, which is quite nice. Next step is just defining the zone. So what's in and out of scope. And so again, this is all pretty straightforward stuff. Right. And what you'll see here is that in Hamina, what we do is everything locks. So you can sort of see if I move the mouse cursor up, it locks to that other click point. So that really helps when I'm sort of going through here. It automatically locks to that point again. So it sort of takes the guesswork out of having to click and do any of the manual work. It actually really streamlines it. It's one of those things where Haydn and Michael, I'm sure you guys have done some manual plan stuff before. If there's any part of the software that can sort of help, I guess, streamline these type of things, which are, they're often pretty tedious and a little bit boring, then, you're all for it.
Yeah, definitely, Grant. And the other one is I can't remember what key it is, because I'm using an external keyboard on a Mac and can't remember how everything's mapped, but basically you can press a button, and if you don't want it to snap to thing, it won't snap to the lines, which comes in handy. Probably come in more handy in one of the demos that you got coming up, where it's got circular walls. Where you don't necessarily want it to snap to anything because it's not straight.
Yeah, absolutely. You can, so you can hold down command and you get free reign rather than the snap angles if you want as well. So, again, you've got that control over it. All right, so now, we've sort of defined the area. We can basically, we can start to go through, with our AP style deployment. We can sort of go through here. We've got Aruba, just at the top there. Now, one of the other things that we can do is, yes, everything is in 3D, but we've also got the 3D antenna view as well, which I find is really, really handy. And so you can sort of see here, depending on the AP type as well, which is quite nice. And so, we can sort of go through and we can pick our AP type. And then once we place the AP, it'll switch our coverage on. But then, we can move that AP around, which is quite dynamic as well, if we want. Or we can just sort of start clicking the other access points, in the environment. Right, and I think this is probably the more fun and satisfying, sort of part. For sure. And then we could do something here where, maybe for the pool area, we put an AP here that needs an external antenna. And then, maybe we choose the first antenna here. We click and drag and we can reorientate the antenna. So we've got a bit of pool coverage as well. So you can sip a mojito and still have, still be on your phone with full coverage. And so then again, we sort of zoom out and we've got our initial design sort of done there. We do have a couple of visualizations as well. So, we've got 2.45 and 6 gigahertz. We've got our 3 channels there as well. The channel planning in Hamina is sort of automatic, which is quite nice. Now you can sort of go into a bit more, detail here. And so, you can disable unnecessary interfering radios. You've got some toggles there, automatic channel width as well, right? And you'll see here, because the regulatory domain was set to Australia, it did get the right channels. So we've just got the Uni 5 channels enabled as well. And then sort of off we go. And we'll get a little bit of an update there, which is quite nice. So I kind of like the philosophy of we'll go as wide as we can until we can't, and then we can shrink it down. But then, of course, if the customer requires that, they would prefer a narrower channel, then we can sort of, we can force that as well.
That Grant, that automatic channel planning, I've used that a bit to actually investigate. As I say, go the widest that you can. I've found it works really well where you just keep dropping APs and you watch the channel with slowly drop down in the tool. So it's useful for that to get an idea of how wide I can go. So then I can sort of marry up my network design to match what's actually feasible. There's no point trying to tell the wireless network to do 160 megahertz channels if it's just going to kill my system. And I've seen a few of the vendors, the best functionality doesn't always result in the best being deployed. No,
look, I haven't run into any problems with it, but of course, I work at Hamina. I'm not out in the field, sort of doing this sort of stuff, but I have put together some pretty large projects and haven't, really run into any sort of issues there.
I'm not talking so much from the Hamina side. I'm talking more using the Hamina on that best channel plan to see what can I get. Then I can adjust what I'm going to actually get on my wireless vendors configuration. I've seen some of the different wireless vendors. The functionality of best isn't always the best. So if I can look at it and go, well, there's no way that I can get 80 megahertz wide channels, but I can get 40 for this design, I'll hard limit it at 40 on the network side.
Absolutely.
Just on I know we've just spoken about it a moment ago, Grant, but those antenna plots that you see when you hover over, for anyone who's had to go and find those, sometimes they can be really difficult to track down. It's actually really convenient having it sitting within the tool, so you can get a quick visualization of what that antenna or what that access point's pattern actually is. Having it all there is a bit of a time saver.
I suppose also, Grant, the other one on that antenna pattern, having that 3D view is fantastic, especially when you're first starting in wireless. To be able to get, like, trying to decipher the polar images is a mission and a half. Having a look at a view that shows that it's massive and then it goes really narrow makes it a lot easier. Or even to go, well, does it go out or does it go up?
I know I've struggled with that in the past. We've seen, you'll see people, sort of post on LinkedIn or something like that, sort of trying to understand as well. It is a nice little sort of reference to be able to look at that. Which I find is quite handy.
We just had a couple of questions pop into the question and answer. So the first one from Anonymous is, how many AP models do we have in the database? I know I realistically haven't found one that I've used out of the main vendors that's not there. I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Grant, I believe there was something, if you've got the pro version, that there was an ability to basically work with Hamina to get an access point added. Is that still the case, or was that the beta-ish type era?
I think that was a little while ago. So if you want an AP added, it's generally a matter of send an email to support@hamina.com and we can get it added in. It's probably not about the number that we've got because no one's deploying AX Wave 1 APs anymore. It's more about what are the relevant APs that you're seeing sort of in the field. Or that you're looking to deploy into the field more so. So I haven't come across any, when we've had customers ask us, hey, just checking, have you got this, have you got that? We do put them in the release notes as well. I know, Joel's pretty, he's pretty pretty good with putting, what models we've got in there, what external antennas we're adding in as well. And we've got a really good relationship with with the AP vendors to make sure that we get them added in as well. So I'd be surprised if we didn't have an AP make or model that wasn't in there as well. So there's that.
And I'm pretty sure you're going to show capacity, aren't you?
Yep. So so someone's asked about capacity, 3D wall placement. How do we do that manually? Look, I mean, the wall placement in drawing the walls. In fact, we'll get to that. So I might leave that one in there because this is a multi-story, and we've just done one story, and so we'll show what that looks like. And someone's asking about automatic AP placement, suggestion per floor or building. Not at this stage, but the fact that the placement is so fast, and I'm not sure if we saw what I did before, but if I need to have secondary coverage, which is a pretty common requirement these days, I think I can see Michael sort of nodding there. That's a pretty good indicator for placement. A lot of the time when we're going through the automated process, at least what I've found, is you're generally having to section off areas and say, look, we can't place here, we can't place there. And I know that I've sort of just placed sort of wherever, but I know that I'm probably not going to place an AP like in that stairwell unless it's absolutely critical because of the cost, and just it's almost a Faraday cage because it's probably going to be double concrete and things like that. And then as you sort of get further down here, you've got bathrooms which look to be a really good place to put an AP, because we've got this big wide area. But sometimes that's not necessarily going to be the case. Same with change rooms and stuff like that. So the manual placement I find sort of does the trick. That's my background. That's my preference. And we will get into the capacity planning in a minute too. So now that's our initial design. We've got the placement in there. We've got our 3D view. We can switch back. We can also relook at the access point here. So what we might do is we'll go back to primary coverage of the AP. We might mount this at 6 meters high, and you can see that sort of changes a little bit. And then we might give that a 45-degree down tilt as well, which is sort of referenced there, just to change that. And then what we could also do is we might, since it's an Aruba AP, we'll make it orange as well. So now visually we can see that the external antenna AP is a different color. Now we can also switch things on and off as well, right? So we've got the AP labels, we can switch those off. We can switch off the channels if we don't really care about those, and things like that as well. And then if we go into here, we'll switch off the visualization, and then we'll have a look at multi-floor. Now, when I imported this PDF, there was floor 1, we had floor 2, which we've got here. And then we've also got floor 3, which we've got here. All right. Now, what I can do is we'll go back to floor 1, we can go into multi-floor, and what we can do is we can click and drag these floors in, right? And so what we can do, the way that we do the multi-floor, so like a 3D building with the 2D floor plans, is we just line up the different layers. And so this is pretty straightforward because we can actually see where the elevator is here, and we can pretty much line that up to be pixel perfect or thereabouts. Like that looks pretty good. And then we can click on the 3rd floor here. So again, we're aligning it with the 1st floor. And click and drag like that. And then what we can do, so now that's done. So the multi-floor is done. If we went into the 2nd floor, for example, and we switch on the Wi-Fi heat map, You can actually see here we've got a bit of signal bleed, and it is actually telling us that the AP is on the floor below. So, you know, if we went through, did you want to add anything there, Michael?
Yeah, I was going to say, this is where you really discover just how good those maps that you've been provided actually are. When you start to scale them accurately, and then you try and overlay one over the top and realize that they're not accurate. So sometimes a really good point for you to then go back and or get better maps, or work with what you've got. But yeah, that overlay really highlights where your maps are not up to scratch.
Yeah,
probably the other one
use easy maps in Hamina. No,
Probably
I'm kidding. We can do
one.
crazy, you know, hand-drawn ones as well, which is probably what you're used to, Haydn. We can do that. We can do that kind of stuff as well. But it does make it a little bit easier when they line up like that.
Yeah, I was going to say probably the advantage of the way that the multi-floor works in Hamina is I don't have to scale every floor. I don't have to. Particularly this floor plan's probably not the best one for demoing this, but where the top floor is not able to use the external walls as anchor points. Things like the stairs, being able to drop it on top, being able to move it to which stairs it actually is. I've had some where, you know, you might see two sets of staircases, but when you're switching between the two maps, you don't know whether it's the first and the middle one, or whether it's the middle one and the third one between first and ground floor. Particularly if you haven't been to the site and you've just been given plans to do predictive remotely, being able to line it up will give you a better thing. Because generally speaking, I've found, especially if they're accurate plans like you've got here, if there's three sets of staircases on the ground floor and there's only two on the second floor, generally they don't line up to both staircases. And if they do, then the lift doesn't line up and that type of thing. So it gives you the ability to work that out from a visual, and it's a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Now, someone did ask, how does the manual wall drawing work? Which, hey, look, if we want to do something like that, basically, you know, if I just do this meeting area here, it's literally just a click, 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 and you'll sort of see how it starts to snap in here, right? So as I move up, you'll see how it sort of snaps, and it's got that little line there. So it just ensures that everything's pixel perfect as I sort of go around the map, which is quite nice. Oops, wrong way to zoom. So we can sort of go into here, and then off we sort of go to there. Let's just command click. And then, you know, of course, we can always, you know, we can change that to glass as well. And again, look at that like sort of in a 3D context as well. Or we can go back to here. We can click on this, and then we can make this a wooden door, or maybe we make this, what have we got here? Glass door is probably a bit better for, we want to show the 3D, and there we go. So you get the, oops. So you get the, you know, you get sort of the top section will basically take from the surrounding wall material, and you'll sort of get that in there, which is quite cool as well. All right.
There is a question that sort of goes on to how you've been drawing it, and from the auto, it's what happens if we get CAD files that are not correct in their layering. I basically do one or two ways. It's either I just disregard the auto import and just manually draw everything if it's not a ridiculous floor plan or building. It's pretty straightforward and it's not going to take me long. Just draw all the things. The other one is effectively import them all as drywall and then go click on the bits that I want to change, or import them what's the most prevalent on the floor plan. 9 times out of 10 it's drywall, and then just go through and click on the walls that I want to change and just change them how Grant just changed that door by clicking on that area and then changing the wall type.
And they are also hotkeyed as well. So the lettering on the side here, like B, C, A, not all of them have got hotkeys, but you can add them as well. So you can modify like the glass door you can give it a shortcut key as well, which does make it a lot easier, especially if you do select a whole bunch of walls and you hit A, it'll change it to the cubicle, for example.
I did say on
yeah.
Twitter the other day, if you've got a Stream Deck, you can use the Stream
Yep.
Deck keys to hotkey your attenuation areas as well.
Yep. Yeah, you can. Yeah, absolutely can do that. Now, there was someone asking about capacity. Yes, we can define capacity zones. So, we can sort of define a capacity zone here, and then we can basically add in devices, depending on if we want to do cellular devices or Wi-Fi devices, and then what do we want to add. And so we've already got iPhone, Android, and MacBooks in there. Those are the top three. So then you can add in, sort of iPads or, sort of legacy devices. These same devices are what we have got for something like the client view, for example, where you can basically sort of click on the map, and it's a bit of a sort of a roaming, what AP am I most likely going to be connected to type of visualization, so to speak. But it's a lot more interactive. You can just click it on the map, and it will give you a bit of an idea of what's sort of going on, depending on different areas, which is quite cool. Now, of course, this is simulation. We do, we've got the, for instance, in this case, we've got the iPhone deployment guide. So, we are making some assumptions, based on this design. But it does give you a pretty good indication, I think, of, how the environment would sort of operate. Haydn, I'm sure you've probably made use of this or sort of, liked, what this sort of feature represents.
Yeah, definitely. So I've used this for a couple of things. One, probably the main one for when I'm doing designs is to basically see what's the roaming experience going to actually be throughout that building. I'm trying to make sure that the client's roaming to the access point that it's going to, not roaming backwards. And probably the other one that I've used it for is not so much my current role, but I've used it in other verticals, which if we take Grant's lovely design he's got here and the typical way that people like or business likes to deploy it, where they don't care about the Wi-Fi and the AP straight down the hallway, you can really show the difference of how the client experience is with this nice little visualization of I don't roam basically until I get around the corner of the hallway, yet I've passed 6 access points. So it's a really handy feature to visualize why a design may not be the best design as well.
Yep. Yeah, and what I like about everything that we've sort of shown here is you do get the interactive version in the report as well. So we'll hopefully we'll get to that as well. But the other question was, can I change what type of device it is? Yes, we've got a couple of other devices in there. And you've sort of got, you've got some other customizations you can do. You could probably go down even further down the rabbit hole by forcing, all the access points onto 2.4 gigahertz and all sorts of crazy stuff like that if you really wanted to. But in general, it's a good approach for what is going to be most likely to happen with this type of environment.
It's probably worth noting it also isn't just purely on signal strength, I believe. It's got the actual, I think they call it the green triangle of signal strength, RSSI, and whatever other magic that the vendor decides that they want to take into account for roaming into that. So iPhone, as Grant said, it's following the iPhone deployment guide. A lot of vendors, there's no documentation, or if there is documentation, it's probably not correct.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So look, I might move on from here because I am looking at I'm also just looking at the time. Look, the other thing that we can do in Hamina is we can do the wired side. We've done the Wi-Fi side. We can do the wireless side. So we sort of saw in here, we've got Wi-Fi. We can do private cellular. We can do BLE, Zigbee, and N-Ocean. But the other thing we can also do is we can add network infrastructure in as well. And so, we can do MDF, IDF, switch, or router, pick what you sort of want to do. We could do something like a 48 port, 1000 watt link budget, power budget switch. We could put it in the electrical closet, which looks about right, like so. And the software will automatically hook up the nearest APs. We will get an exception to the APs over here due to distance. And so then, if we wanted to, the fitness area, maybe in the corner there, we'll hook up another switch. And then we get this automated cabling of all of the access points. Now, and in Hamina, it does it all automatically, a little bit similar to how the channel planning works as well. But we can do things like, when we look at the individual AP, and, we can just Control A, and we can select all the access points, and we can sort of go through it as well if we want. But if we just select an individual AP in this instance, we can look at, some other bits and pieces like the mounting, the height, the AP name. We can change this as well. So we can add in, project, make, model, things like that as well. We can do the channels, transmit powers if it's got BLE. We can also look at things like, the Ethernet. So we want it just, we want the APs in this instance to just connect to the nearest power source, PoE power source. But we can actually tell it, no, we want you to connect to switch 1 or switch 2. We can name those switches as well to make it a little bit easier. We can mesh it, or we can just not connect it at all, for whatever reason. And then we also have the power budgets from the vendors as well in there. So we do get a pretty realistic representation of what that all sort of looks like too, which is quite nice. Someone's asking about a network diagram. To be honest, what I would probably do, depending on, is I would probably just, I would go through and do some of the layering that you've got available in here. So you can, where are we? You'd switch off things like the floors, things like that. You do something like that. Now, the other cool thing you can do is, if that doesn't look, it's a little bit hard to see. What we can do is we can actually adjust things like the opacity of the design as well. So you can do things like that. And so you can very clearly see where different elements are within the tool.
Well, I was going to say the remove colors is a feature I love.
Yep.
I love getting those floor plans where they've got green, blues, reds, all the colors that the signal generation's going to take, and I can't tell the difference. Literally, you can come in here and click on remove red, and boom, it's gone. I don't have to go over to Photoshop and work out how to get rid of one particular color. It's so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's quite nice. Yes, I can remove the colors. These ones, it is very much a black and white, but you can you can remove them as well, which is pretty handy. Now, so that's one example of the top to bottom design. I can add in additional infrastructure here. When we talk about client devices, these are wired client devices, for example. So you've got like sensors and printers and door locks and things like that in there. So for instance, if we're going to add a camera in, I can click a camera. I get a little camera icon here, and you'll see I've got a power budget, and you'll also see it's running an Ethernet cable to the switch that I've got off to the side as well. So we can do those type of things as well. So you can really get into a lot of detail. I think in one of these, I've got a report as well, eventually. Maybe not in this one. I've got it in another one. But there is a report that I've got in one of these as well. So yeah. Let's move on. I'm just looking at the time, and we are quickly running out of time here, really, really quickly. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to show the survey app. I think that would be really handy for the folks that are here. Now, we do have a Mac OS app as well, and so we've got that there. I've got my Nomad off to the side here. I'm just powering that up now. USB-C on the side. I've got another USB-C for if I wanted to plug in like a power bank or something like that, which is quite handy. And what I'll do is I will connect and I'll see if I can. I'll see if I can screen mirror this and hopefully this will work. So you guys should be able to see this right now. All right, here we go. So at the moment, I'm in the Hamina Onsite app. I've got some options here. So on the iOS device, I've got the ability to survey from a Nomad or a WLAN Pi. If I'm on the Mac OS version, I will also have the MacBook there available. So yes, I can do a survey on the MacBook. I'm just assuming that it's still screen sharing.
Grant, you're just sharing your Mac and it's showing up with all projects, Aqua Center, where your mouse is.
Is it showing the real-time view now? Because it's not giving me a lot of feedback. That's all.
No.
Okay. All right. So that's all right. I did anticipate we might have some problems here. So what we'll do is you should be able to see my MacBook app version. So we'll show that instead. And while we wait for that to load up, someone's asking, can you show the reporting template available after complete design? Yes, we will get to that. So we'll get into that. Someone else is asking, does it consider reflection and reflection? I'd love to know why they would need reflection and reflection. Because from my experience, it's very computationally heavy. And yeah, so it'd be interesting to understand what they're looking for in that context. Okay, so you guys should be able to see my Hamina Onsite app sharing now, which is good. So I've got my 2.4, 5, and 6 gigahertz. So I've got a couple of access points here. There's my trusty Aruba IP in the background there. So we get a real-time view in the app itself, which is quite nice. I can select what my SSID is as well, and then I can basically go into my projects. I've got my different surveys here, and so for instance, if I click on this particular survey here, now this particular survey is quite a large one, and so what we can do is we'll just pinch in here. And so when we actually do a survey, we've got our signal on the side here. You know, let's just say we're in Kmart at the moment. We can click to do a survey. Not sure if that's showing up or not.
Saw the first click, nothing showing since other than your mouse moving. I'm assuming that the line's sitting there between it on your screen.
Yeah, it's not sure what it's doing at the moment. But basically, you've got, you know, from a survey perspective, you've got 3 different survey options. You've got a line survey, which is from one point to the other. You can sort of see that up on the top there. And so it'll basically, it's a start and a stop. So when you know where your destination is, it's pretty good for like if you've got like a lot of crowds and things like that. And so, you know, particularly with like a large shopping center, that can be exactly what you need. You've got a point survey, which is, you know, for smaller areas where you just, you know, you can only just sort of squeeze in there, for example. You can just do a quick point survey. And then you've got a continuous survey where you're always capturing data. So you sort of always need to be moving around the environment. You've got the ability to write notes. So you can do text notes, you can do picture notes, you can change the icons and things like that as well. If you want, you can add floor plans in, you can scale them. You've got things like coverage, secondary coverage, and SNR, and things like that as well. And then you can filter things out like the access points and things like that. From a like, you know, someone's asking, and I think you're going to say, Haydn, do I need internet access? No, you don't. The nice thing is that there will be the syncing that happens. It really happens in the background, so you can survey and sync at the same time. You can exit totally out of one project, go into another. There'll be syncing will still be happening in the background as well. So we've built the product in a way where the functions that the tool needs isn't going to get in your way. So if you're completely offline, you know, Michael, you said you're based out in Perth, Western Australia. Maybe you've got like a remote site that one of your engineers needs to go to. They can go there with Hamina Onsite. They can do the whole survey offline. They'll get a little sync failed icon. It'll let them know that it can't sync. No problems. That's not going to cause any issues. But then when they're back within internet service, within Wi-Fi, they can do what they need to do. And it's pretty resilient as well. Like I've been able to do upload and download syncing over 4G. I've been able to update the Nomad firmware over 4G as well without too many problems. And that's, you know, in the patchy Gold Coast where I've had like 2 bars of 4G and stuff like that as well. So it doesn't take a huge bandwidth requirement as well, which is quite nice. You know, the other thing with,
I was going to say, it's probably worth mentioning that the survey app is basically completely separated from the planner. So if you don't do surveys, you don't need to purchase the survey, or if you're in like some of the large VARs where you might have 50 people doing designs, but you only have 3 people doing surveys, you don't need to go necessarily buy a survey for every man and their dog.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I think something that I take for granted now, but it is very much a you just get the licensing that sort of suits what your model is, so to speak. Now,
and on cue, there's a question about the licensing model for you.
Well, I think we're talking about. I think we're explaining it. So basically, you can get a planner license. You can get a Planner Plus license. You can get an on-site license, and you can get them separate. So you either get Planner or Planner Plus. You either get on-site with Nomad, or you can get on-site with Nomad and with the Planner license as well. So it's really sort of up to you. They are individual licenses as well, so they get tied to the user. But you know, depending on what you want to do, you might have field engineers and they only need a survey license, or they only need an on-site license, and so they just have the on-site license as well. One of the things that I didn't necessarily show in here is, you know, even with the sharing, you know, you can share projects to teams and things like that as well, right? So, you know, I've got my top secret team, you know, which is a very, very secret. I think it's like UC and Joel and Jerry. But basically, if you've got a team of engineers internally, it's very easy to share it to them without too much hassle. If we get back to here, this is what the survey looks like in a post-analysis world. So that's that same survey. That's sort of what it looks like, you know, depending on what you're looking to do there. You can highlight the individual APs. We get all of the individual data there as well. Actually, I think this one here looks a little bit better because we've got like things like the picture notes and things like that as well, right? You know, we can do things like we can add picture notes. We can change the icons as well. Like Pac-Man's probably my favorite one. We can delete things if we want to. You know, we've got things like that. We can also, you know, change, you know, what the actual SSID was. So yes, we did find there was a lot more APs, you know, because it was a shopping center. So, you know, just about every shop has got its own, you know, its own AP, or, you know, router, wireless router or something like that. But if we just look at the local infrastructure, we've sort of got, you know, we've got these APs that have got these sort of coverage cells as such. Not all that great that they're all running on channel 36. But, you know, that just seems to be what they've what they've landed on as well. So maybe they need a little bit of Hamina in there as well. The actual did have a report somewhere. See if we can find the report that I put together. Someone did ask for a report, so I will bring one up. I must have accidentally killed. Oh, sorry. This is the report here, actually. And that's the problem. The reports look so similar to the actual, like the real thing. And that's sort of the bonus. So yes, I can download this as a PDF. I can share this report, and again, I can share that and add a password to it if I want as well. But this is basically, regardless of user, this is what they'll be able to see. So whether I share it with, Haydn and Michael, whether I share it with someone else that doesn't have a license, they will still be able to access this. They do not need a Hamina account to be able to see it. But they can see things like the coverage, for example. They've still got the ability to go through and see different bits and pieces. They've got stuff like bill of materials. They can go in and they can edit a bunch of these as well, right? So they can change a lot of this stuff, switching locations, things like that as well.
Probably on the reports. So I've come from at a company that has that lovely, everything has to be a PDF.
Yep.
And I've come from the VARLAN where I've delivered the PDF, and I can tell you, from coming from a VARLAN where I send a PDF, 9 times out of 10 the customer doesn't understand it, and I've got to walk them through. And now being on the other side, receiving wireless designs quite often from integrators, I get it. And if Grant brings up clicks the coverage tab for a second.
Yep.
Up.
Coverage.
Wi-Fi, yeah. I get this lovely plan, and it's like, well, everything's green, or everything's red, or everything's yellow. I don't have the best eye to be able to say, well, at that point, right where it's just a little blob of yellow, is that neg 60? Is that neg 65? Is that neg 70? To me, it's somewhere in that decent range. Of that little scale, it's down the bottom. The ability now with this online report to be able to just go in, zoom, move my mouse, zoom in, see what it actually looks. That particular one, I've clicked on an AP. I've had a report that's come through that's been like over a gig in size because it details every single AP's coverage, and there's like 300 access points, and the thing's like a 300-page PDF document. And it's just not user-friendly. The ability to effectively do this, I want to see what this AP or these two APs, what the coverage, to be able to click on the report as an end user is fantastic. And then as a consumer of the report, I then can go stick a comment on there. I know Grant's in the delivering the report side, but as the person that's received, I can stick a comment there and go, you cannot mount the AP in this room. So rather than me go back and forth with the customer via email, via thing, I can literally just type something like that, and the person who's at the other end automatically has well, as long as they're on the internet, gets a pop-up with where the message is, and I don't have to go, oh, it's in room 1145, I think it is. Don't put an AP in that room, and then the next 5 hours is spent by the other guy who's done the design trying to work out where that room actually is on a floor plan. Now they can just see my note straight away. So that collaborative side works really well. And as Grant said, there is PDFs there because there are parts that we still do need to get the a PDF. The lovely, I need to just store it in SharePoint for project's sake. Builders quite often want a report with thing, and it's really easy to make a different report. I've found, like, to go between an installer report and a thing. Literally, you just hide that section. I don't have to go create some other document to build my report.
Yeah, so it also does, in this case, we do have like a bill of materials report as well. You can put in your own custom project notes as well, which does pull through. You've got some logos and things like that you can add in there as well. So there is a bit of customization in there. There's definitely a lot more coming. Hayden, we've had some really good discussions around that as well.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a couple of comments in there about AP implementation. For on-site guys, versioning. I know, talking to Grant and Yusi and Joel, there is a big piece of work coming to revamp the reporting, to fill in a bunch of things that aren't quite there yet. But the advantage is it's the SaaS platform. So as soon as they hit go, I just log in the next day and it's there.
Yeah, that's a really solid point. And like the pace of development with this product is phenomenal. Like, you can literally log out, log back in one day, and then suddenly discover, oh, I've got some new and interesting things to take a look at. And the release notes are really good, really detailed. So, I think
So I know there's, I can't remember what it's called, but the customer feedback portal. I know I've put a couple in there, and I know one's already and I didn't go through the contacts that I know. I just whacked it in there, and I reckon it had been there for less than a month, and it's already been implemented, which was the AP ability to show the AP name on the map. Previously, you just got 72. Now you can have it say blah blah blah, whatever the thing is. And Grant's just put the feature request.
There's a feature upvote.
The upvotes. So the community can drive what they actually want the tool to have.
Because I think another
example of that.
Sorry, Michael, you go.
Sorry, Grant. Another example of that was just, obviously, you guys had some feedback when you were running the course at WLPC, and I think by the end of the 2 or 3 day course, you implemented like 3 new features on the back of that as well. So, like, this is a seriously responsive development team.
Yeah, there was we just had another we call it like a production push the other day, and I know UC had sort of put out, like, I think it's about every 2 weeks that we're sort of doing it at this pace, and it is literally how do I get access to the new features? Just refresh your browser, and you may have to log back in, but yeah, that's literally all it is. So it's not like it's not like there's any additional overhead or installation or anything like that needs to sort of happen. It's all pretty straightforward. I did just want to touch on, Mark was sort of asking about like the versioning on the reports. You do have different report versions each time if you want as well. Otherwise, at the moment, we are we've got some templating stuff in there, but you can pull it from a previous version as well. So you can sort of keep a bit of a track of that. But Hayden, I know we've talked about versioning on reports as well. So there's going to be there'll be some movement there as well. Maybe just look, the last thing, and I know, like, there's a few people that are sort of still here, so I do really appreciate that. We are sort of well over time. I wanted to have a little bit of fun and show like some of the 3D modeling and like what sort of what it's capable of. So I did at first start to sort of build these stadium designs that I keep seeing. Some of the other guys have done look really cool. So I just grabbed like a Google Maps image of the MCG, and it looks kind of boring by itself, but then when you do put it into 3D. It is pretty cool. Like, even we've got sort of we go over here, you've sort of even got like the cricket pitch sort of area here, with an elevated and sloped flooring. You've sort of got this overpass as well, which I sort of managed to draw in. So this stuff, it seems like it would take a long time. It's actually pretty straightforward to do. So literally, you've got raised floors and you've got sloped floors, and that's really what it sort of comes down to. It's all pretty straightforward. You can sort of see, we've got the lower height at 0 and the upper height at 65 meters. I don't know if that's 100% accurate. That's just what I did. And then, if you sort of go into the stands area, Haydn, we were looking at this before, but like that kind of, that gives you an example of what you can do with the tiering and things like that as well. And so again, this stuff isn't, it's not super difficult to do. It is just a lot of, if I zoom out and we just hit Control A, it is just a lot of elevations on elevations, really. But the software does do a lot of it for us. So if I click on one of those, lower height at 1 meter, upper height at 12.5 meters, and so we just sort of worked out the tiering and just, bit of drawing in there.
Yeah, I know everyone's probably thinking we do stadium designs quite often.
Yep.
Particularly, I know over in the US, it seems every second wireless engineer's got a stadium sitting in their backyard. Over here, I know at least in Australia, there's 24 stadiums that maybe get wireless refreshed once every 10 years if they're lucky, or if the Olympics come along. This functionality, I've done quite a bit of work in higher ed, lecture theatres. This is fantastic there was nothing worse than I'd stick an AP at 3 meters in the height, but then because of the tiered seating, it wasn't hitting the area that I wanted, or it was way too high to be able to see how it's going to work in those lecture theatres that are maybe just one room inside a big building. Came in really handy. Is where I see probably 90% of the use case of the raised floors. Similar on sometimes probably potentially sort of like those mezzanine levels where it's not really a mezzanine, but there's nothing really below it type of thing, or it's a storage that you don't really care about below, where the AP is sort of going to be above without doing the big whopping big hole in the wall thing, or and any of those atrium type things where they have tiered seating.
Yeah. Yeah, and there was someone asking about, hey, with shopping centers, and you've got the big, the big open atriums, how do we deal with that? We do actually, we've literally got a hole in the floor or floor hole for that type of stuff. But yeah, you're 100% right, Haydn. It's for this kind of thing, let me get rid of that. You do have the ability to, you can mount an access point, on this, walkway here, and you can blast it up into the crowd. I haven't added any of that sort of stuff in there, but this was more just to show off, what is possible with the with the 3D engine, where when you are looking at it in a 2D fashion, it for lack of a better term, it is very flat. But it does help you visualize it a lot better. And when you do place an access point in there, and if we do, I don't know, I'll throw something like an AP in, you can still see, you can still sort of view it, and you can still sort of grab it and move it around and stuff like that as well, which is kind of cool. You can sort of see how it's going to interact, which is kind of cool as well.
I'm doing one at the moment for kind of a mega church in Southeast Asia, and the ability to sort of model what it looks like, because we're coming, 8.5, 9 meter ceilings, but you're like, okay, well, if I'm on raised seating, I'm only 3 meters away from the access point, so that's kind of nice to visualize. Okay, what is the impact of that going to be? The other thing that was a little less obvious to me, but became obvious when I started doing it in 3D was there were times where I wasn't orienting the antennas correctly while looking at the 2D design, which became immediately obvious when I was looking at it in 3D. So that was quite a useful feature as well.
I suppose the other one which probably comes into play with the 3D modeling that would be really helpful is mining. 31, it's
Yep.
working in the mining. So the big open cuts, the ability to see when you got a truck down in the bottom of the pit, can it actually reach?
There is a sample project here, which I think Joel did put together, and it is seriously impressive. And it doesn't look like a whole lot, but then when you look at it in 3D, like it is, like that's pretty impressive. And it is literally, it's raised floors and sloped environments is literally all it is. Yeah, you can sort of do stuff like that as well, which is pretty cool. So yeah, this is a more extreme case, of course, as well. And then I guess lastly, I've got my I couldn't help but show off my little Doom level, which again shows the flexibility of what I based it off. I had a 2D floor plan. And then you can sort of, you've got stuff like this that you can sort of create with things like stairs and, and transparent environments and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. So, again, you look at it in 2D, yes, it's flat, but it does bring out a lot more of the detail in it. And I think, just from a design perspective, getting your head around it really helps, but also just being able to maybe educate like a customer, like a stakeholder, as well. So yeah. All right. Well, look, we might end it there. We are well and truly over time. Look, it's been really good, listening to me, Hayden and Michael, but also it's been really good to sort of hear your perspectives and your sort of knowledge from from your sort of backgrounds and where you're coming from in either usage of the tool or using the tool currently. Any last things you want to sort of leave with the audience? We've still got a few people on.
I know you're not here to talk price, Grant, but what I will say is that this is very accessible to the point where I've had people who may not have previously considered modeling this stuff out are now choosing to do so because it's something that they can put into their arsenal without having to go through quite the same justification process they may have had to do before. So you would be surprised how accessible this is.
Yeah, I might just say it's like the planner price starts at like $480 USD for like 6 months, which is very, very accessible. Yeah. Haydn, any last words before we close this off?
Not that I can really think of. It's from my experience with the tool, it's been the price points, like Michael said, it enables the ability to jump to it a lot easier price point, particularly for smaller companies that potentially wouldn't model something up. But then coming from a large organization and how the tool will work, that collaborative side with the design is where I see some of the big benefits, but then also the way that the feedback's been taken of, this feature's missing. This is why we'd like to have it. And then obviously other people see it and go upvote. And then, it's under consideration. It's been implemented. It's done. Reload your browser and it's there. Is awesome.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Well, look, I really appreciate you both being on the session today. I appreciate everyone sticking around as well. They may not even be listening at this point. It's just playing in the background. But yeah, it's been really, really good. I'm sure we'll be in touch soon. Anyone needs to hit me up. It's grant@hamina.com. Hayden and Michael, you guys are on LinkedIn and stuff like that as well. So yeah, please, reach out to them if you need anything as well. All right, cool. All right, thanks, guys. See
Thanks,
you later.
guys.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Thanks, Grant.